Welcome back to another episode of Sippy Cup Shenanigans. I'm Katherine Jensen.
And I'm Taylor Palmer. And today we're going to be talking about navigating that first year with your new baby and how that goes and all the challenges and changes and exciting new things that brings with it.
Yeah,
So,
so
I'm
much.
so much. I'm going to ask the first question. And last week we kind of touched on this in terms of like what was the most surprising thing that happened to you after you came home, but I think we touched more on how that was physically for us, physically, mentally. What was the most surprising thing that happened revolving around the baby? So, what was the most surprising thing for you bringing home Hillam for the first
Yeah.
time?
Um I would say the sleep. Well, I guess this is kind of about me too. I don't know. Well, I was going to say the newborn sleep is
Mm-hmm.
like I is was surprising. Like people talk about it and like say you're never going to sleep again or whatever, but it's just different when you're in it. And it's like, oh yeah, this little baby needs to eat every 2 to 3 hours. So I think, I don't know, just like adjusting to that,
Yeah.
and like the sleep deprivation
Uh-huh.
is just like so crazy.
Did
And
did Hillam sleep like well for those little spurts, or was it challenging? Because I remember us having to set alarms, and that was so stressful to make sure we
yeah,
woke up.
yeah. Yeah. I think it depended.
Yeah.
Sometimes he would sleep well. Um, and I do remember sometimes, yeah, setting an alarm like,
Yeah.
okay, I gotta make sure I get up at 3 to feed him, or in
Yeah.
3 hours to feed him, or. But sometimes he would only sleep for 45 minutes or, so I totally think it depended. And I think that is really the thing that's like was most surprising is just how unpredictable
Yeah.
newborn babies are. Like, they are not consistent, like, it's just like, you think you have a routine, or you think, "Oh, look, they're sleeping good,"
Yeah.
and then it just changes. It's just
Yeah.
not consistent, so you can't be like, "This is what to expect."
Yeah.
You're, like, so it's always constantly
Oh,
changing.
yeah.
The babies are just, they don't follow any rules. They're
No.
just they're just figuring out this world outside
Yeah.
of your womb.
No. You get
So,
like you're like, "Oh, this is great. We're sleeping a certain amount." And then it's like,
nope.
I'm hungry. I am teething. I'm going through a leap. I have a sleep
Yeah.
regression." Like
Yeah.
they keep you on your
Yes.
toes.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And it's
So,
like you're
yeah.
trying to figure out what it is. Are you
Yeah.
hungry? Do you have teeth coming in? Like I'm looking
Yeah.
at, you're looking at their mouth. Do you have a dirty diaper? Do you have
Yeah. I know, and it's like so hard because you're like, I wish you could just tell me what is like bothering you, or
Mhm.
like what you're feeling. But yeah, there's no way to really know, just trying to learn
Yeah.
about them and how they work. So yeah.
Yep. It's like a whole many years of problem solving without
Yeah. Trial and error a
Yeah.
lot. Yeah.
You're like, "What? This is a puzzle. I have to solve it because you can't
Exactly.
talk to me."
Yeah. Yeah. We don't speak the same language.
No.
So
It's rough.
yeah.
It's rough.
Yeah. What about you?
Um, I would say the same with the sleepless nights. I also think feeding, and I think that this is going to go kind of towards me too, but so Everly ended up having, after coming home, nursing was a struggle. Um, I guess that kind of started in the hospital. She, I had gestational diabetes, and so they were testing her around the clock after she was born, and they kept saying that her numbers were too low. She wasn't eating. So we were giving her formula, which I didn't love, but it was fine. And by the time we got home, it was just rough. So I was trying to breastfeed. And I think that was a
Mm.
struggle with having to have her learn how to latch and nurse and go through that. And I was grateful my mom was there to help me. I think that was a struggle, but she figured it out and she did good. But I think that
It's
was
so hard.
rough. rough
Yeah.
in the beginning.
Yeah, it's like it's something you think should come naturally, but it does not. It's
No.
just yeah, it's such a learning curve and
Yeah.
like there's so many different factors playing into
Oh yeah.
feeding and
Yeah.
everything. So,
So that was a struggle. And I think that was rough too because I did want to breastfeed. And so like attaching it back or going back to like how you were talking about sleepless nights, I would be so tired. And then nursing, which everybody is so tired in nursing, but there were times where I remember my husband would be like, "Oh, I was just letting you sleep." Because I'd wake up and he wouldn't be there and she wouldn't be there. And it would freak me out because I'm like, I have to nurse her. And he'd be in the living room feeding her formula.
mm,
And I would get so upset. And he was just trying to help.
right.
And he just wanted to be a part of it. But I just remember being like, you have to tell me. And just kind of like figuring all of those things out with, a baby who is figuring out sleep
Y-
and crying and figuring out
Everything.
how to eat. So,
Yeah,
um, yeah, I think that was one of the most surprising things, just the feeding and sleeping with
definitely.
it. So,
Definitely.
yeah.
Well, this next question is kind of broad, but and I mean, kind of goes along with that, but how did you manage the transition to becoming a new parent?
Not the best.
That's what I was thinking. I read this question and I was like, not well. Not well.
I mean, I probably could have done it better. But I
No,
mean,
we're all
but I
just
mean,
doing the best we
how?
can.
How?
Yeah.
Like, how do you don't even know what, like, this is like what we talked about last week. You can't talk or tell somebody like how it's going to be because you really don't know how your
Yeah.
personal experience is going to be. You just don't
It's so
until you're in it.
true.
And
Yeah.
so I think I probably could have managed it better, but it was rough. My mom came to help and they were in a transition themselves. They were moving down to San Diego to help us out. Well, not just to help us out. All of my brother and sister are here too, so they wanted everyone to be down here. So she came for like a week, um, and that was so helpful. Just like figuring things out and having her there to like kind of show me the ropes a bit because I didn't know what
Mhm.
I was doing.
Mhm.
Dwayne going right into a new job. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah, you
I'm
had just
just,
moved, like,
yeah, like
so much change.
you're like waddling. You're not even
Yeah.
walking straight because you're in pain from having the
Yeah.
baby. So you're like, I can barely move. I'm trying to care for this human. So that was just crazy. And when my mom had left after that week, they were moving down like 3 weeks after she had to go home. But I just remember sobbing and I was
Mhm.
so sad. I felt so alone. Um, it was just, I didn't know. It was like last week when we were talking about postpartum. Like, I didn't know all the hormones that were going to come with that. And
Yeah.
so it's hard to manage something when your body is like physically not
Yes.
performing at like your regular levels.
Exactly.
And you
Exactly.
can't do anything about that. It's just something that happens. I mean, this is totally going back to last week. I even had a conversation with my mom yesterday about hormones, and she was like, you just don't realize the hormones and the shifts that your body is going through. Like, even now, I'm 3 months postpartum, and now my hair is like just coming out all the time.
Mhm.
And it's like I feel like I'm a lot better, but then that I feel like that's your body telling you that you're still going through these huge changes that you don't necessarily see or feel, but it's like happening.
Yes.
Um so
It's like
yeah.
invisible though. It's hard
Yes.
to yeah,
Yeah.
see
So
it.
all of those things combined, I feel like it just hormones and everything didn't help to make it an easy transition.
Yeah.
I will say if I were to hop to Riley and having
Yeah.
him, I did in my head think back like, oh, if I would have known all the things with Everly before and going back to it, I would have been chill. But
Yeah.
that was just me personally. Like this time around, I felt so much better. I
Yeah.
felt like I understood what was going to happen. I knew how things were going to go. I felt like it was an easier transition. I just knew what to expect.
Yeah.
So I think I was personally able to handle it better. That doesn't mean that I didn't have breakdowns and
Right.
cry and have hormones and things, but I knew what to expect.
Yes, which
Um,
makes such a big
it
difference.
does, yeah. So
Yeah.
that was me. I could have handled it better, but I had no idea. So I it was better the second time around.
Yeah,
But
and we're all
but
doing the best we can.
exactly. And if that was not the case for somebody else, it's your body. It's
Yeah.
not it's you're going through this huge change. Like how are you supposed to manage all of that on your own? I just don't
Yeah.
think it's hard.
Yeah, we're not meant to do it alone.
No. No. No, no,
Yeah.
no. You? How about
Yeah.
you?
I would totally agree. Yeah, with everything you said. Um and like especially what you were saying about the second time kind of having a better idea of what to expect, and also like transitioning from like not being a mom to being a mom was really hard, and I was like obsessed over like every little thing, like feeding
Yes.
schedule, how many diapers, how much is he sleeping, and I was just like so worried about like every little thing,
Yes.
and every little thing had to be perfect, and I definitely felt myself with my second kind of like loosen my grip a little
Mhm.
bit on things. And also you kind of are forced to, because you have, what with I mean, for me personally, like you have another kid too, and
Yeah.
so there's just like more that needs your attention,
Mhm.
and like you need more help from your spouse and family, so you kind of are forced to let go of that control a little bit.
Mhm.
um and so yeah, for me too, it was a little bit easier of a transition. I also think it was an easier transition because of our circumstances. We were living with my mom, which was really helpful, and Austin was in school, but most of his classes were at night, so he was
Mhm.
able to help me a lot during the day, and so I think that helped the
Yeah.
transition go a little bit more smoothly. We had other family helping, like
Yeah.
so that was really really helpful. And yeah, like you were saying with my first, you don't know what to expect. I remember like Marco Poloing my one of my friends like all
Mhm.
the time, who had kids, and being like, what do you do about this? What do you do about this? Like tell me all of the things, like, and yeah, it's just a learning process. It's a learning curve, and
Yeah.
you try to take it one step at a time, one day at a time.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I
Totally.
was a total mess that first
So was
year.
I.
And I'm still a mess, honestly, but we're figuring it out.
No, no. I think like what you said, you're figuring it out. I mean, you said it great. I didn't even think about that. I was also super like on top of the whole diaper and
Yeah.
feeding and all this stuff. And with Riley, I'm like, well, we gotta go. We gotta do
Yeah.
stuff. Like I can't.
Yeah.
I with Everly, I had like an app where I would time how
Yes.
long she would feed on one breast and then how long
Yes.
she'd feed on the other. And with him, I used that, but
Yeah.
I didn't like switch the breast timing. I would press play and I wouldn't even stop it when he finished because I was like not focusing on it. I just only used it to remember what time I fed him at.
Yeah.
Not
I
even I
yeah, same with me. I would use it just especially in that beginning, those first few weeks when like you don't you're not like totally there, just to remember what side I
yeah.
had
Mhm.
started on
Yep.
the last time. But
Yeah,
yeah.
no. I was like, okay, well, and then I think I would count diapers and like numbers
Yeah.
of poops and pees with Everly. And
Mhm.
this time I was like, he pooped a few times. He's good.
Yeah. 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 I've changed his diaper a lot today, so I think
Yeah.
we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't have time to count and then with the kids. So
Exactly.
yeah. But I
Yeah.
think it feels like, I don't know about you. Does it feel like a little bit lighter? Like
Yes.
you're like, okay, I've done this once before.
Yes.
I know that it's going to be okay
Yeah.
and I can move on.
Yeah. And I I was able to tell myself like this is just a phase, like and things will get better,
Mhm.
and like the sleep is so hard right now, and feeding is so hard right now, but like I've been on the other side of it and
Yeah.
I know it's okay.
Yeah.
Whereas like maybe that first time after you have your first, it's like, wait, is this forever?
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. You're like, am I ever gonna get out of this? Is this Did it feel different? I'm switching it up a little because we're here, but did it feel different after you had Hayes, like how Hillam was? Like all of a sudden, did it feel like he was a bigger kid, or
Yes.
like that he was
Yes.
doing things like, I don't know. I feel like it seemed like once we brought Riley home, Everly almost was just like growing faster and like she
Yes.
was a new kid.
Yeah, and I remember thinking like Hillam's always been my baby. Like
Yeah.
he's always been my baby, and now like he's not a baby anymore. Like I don't know, I just it's like he grew up a little bit
Isn't that
more, and
crazy?
yeah, and he's like a kid now, and it's and seeing the comparison between like a newborn and my toddler, it's like
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, but I remember being like, "Wait, but he's still my baby too," like
Yeah. It was crazy. I feel like Everly almost just started growing too. It was like,
Yeah.
maybe I just wasn't seeing it in the same way, but I was like, you're talking more, you're
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
coming out of your shell more. It was
Yeah,
like a crazy transition after 1 to 2.
I agree.
So, how did you decide on a feeding method? Going back to kind of talking about feeding during the nights, during the days, like how did you do that? Was it breastfeeding formula? And then did you face any challenges with that?
Yeah, so, I had thought beforehand that I wanted to breastfeed. And so that's what we did and that's what we tried. And luckily, like I said earlier, there was challenges. It was definitely a learning curve. I was in a lot of pain at first. We actually, with my first and second, they both had tongue ties. Um,
Oh, wow.
which, sometimes can make a big difference, sometimes not. But we did end up having both of theirs released. And I do feel like it made a difference, mostly with Hillam, my first, in like the amount of pain I was feeling.
Mhm.
Um, so that once that started to improve, that was good. And so it started working well for us. And we kind of, um, just kept going with it because it worked well. We did try to introduce bottles with my first, and he did okay at first, and then he just refused and refused, and we tried, and I was like, well, I'm not working. I didn't go back to work or anything, so it wasn't like a necessity.
Mhm.
So I he never really took bottles, which yeah was was challenging because then I was like I just was always tethered to
Yeah.
to
Can I ask when? When did you introduce a bottle?
I think it with both it was around 5 or 6 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and Hayes did a lot better with the bottle, and I think part of it was we were more consistent too because I was like, okay, if we want to have this as an option, like we have to kind of commit and be consistent with it. So Hayes does a lot better at taking a bottle. He's still not like the best at taking a bottle. He
Yeah.
doesn't take as much, but it's definitely like I'm able to leave for a couple of hours and I know that he
He'll be
won't
okay.
starve. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Everly didn't take a bottle either. Um, we tried, I think she took a bottle like semi twice, I want to
Mhm.
say.
Yeah.
Um, and that was rough. But I did start, I wanted to breastfeed. Like I said, when we were in the hospital, they gave her formula and those like little pre made formula
Mhm.
bottles at the hospital. And I didn't know what I wanted or didn't. I wanted to breastfeed, but I was fine if she needed that. So we let her
Yeah.
do that.
Of course. Yeah.
Um, and we did that a few times at home. And then she started nursing, and that was fine. it was so painful. Um, I didn't realize the pain that would go into it. And I know that people are
Mhm.
like, well, it shouldn't hurt or it shouldn't do this. And I'm like, okay, but I'm not the only one that says it's painful. I feel like a
Yeah,
lot of women experience pain. So it's
I
like,
think for the first couple weeks at least, it's
it's a
normal.
new, I
Yeah.
think it's like a new thing that your body is experiencing. Like,
Yeah.
I don't, it's not like a muscle. It's just like,
It
it's
just
that
needs to get
skin.
used
It's
to
just,
it.
it needs to get used to that feeling. And
Yeah.
so it's not
Yeah.
used to it and it hurts.
Yeah.
And
Now
not
if it
only
keeps hurting
that,
forever, that's
that
not
would, no, that's not
that's
normal,
not
but
normal.
it did hurt for the first few weeks. And,
Yeah.
like the engorgement too, like
Mm.
that was really painful.
So
And
painful.
I think one of my most vivid memories, from nursing Everly in those first few weeks was there was one night she was crying and crying and crying, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. So I was like, I'm going to nurse her, but it hurt. And I just remember sitting in the dark in my living room in our apartment, just nursing her and crying, just like sobbing while nursing her. And I think that was like the hardest part. That was like the low. And it just got better from there. There were things that I found. I used like those silverettes
Oh, yeah.
to help.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. Like they say like the nipple balm
Yeah.
to help. It didn't help me that much.
My favorite were the gel pads.
I use those too.
Did you ever
Yeah.
use those?
Hmm.
Those were my favorite.
Yeah, those weren't bad. I just feel like at some point it was just like it just everything hurt, so it was hard
Yeah. Yeah.
to get back. But she nursed. I always worried about her if she was getting enough
Mhm.
or not, and that was a stressor. But she grew on her thing. If I were to go now to Riley, he's a
Yeah.
totally different case. When we were in the
Which just goes to
hospital,
show that, like, every baby is
it's
so
different.
different. Yeah.
Exactly.
And needs
And
different things.
we he latched fine in the hospital. He was doing great. I was like, "Oh, easy. This
Mhm.
is great. I've got it." And then as time went on, I don't know what happened. Everly had a milk protein allergy, and so I did have to take out dairy and soy for that whole first year. Now she couldn't get enough of milk, so she's fine now. But I did have to take that out, and so we're wondering if he has a similar thing. But he'll latch and then he'll just decide like, I'm done. But he's not done. Like
Yeah.
he's still hungry. When it first started, he would fuss and I'm like, okay, and I'd burp him and then he'd be fine, but he wouldn't really want to latch again. And I'm like, okay, well, he has to be okay because they say babies feed until they're content.
Yeah.
But he wasn't really content because he wouldn't like go to sleep very well or other things. And he still kind of has a problem with it, but I nurse him now and I give him a bottle afterwards. Um, and he finally looks like he's starting to grow.
Oh.
Because he went from a higher percentile to an extreme, like the 50th down to the fifth percentile.
Mm.
And so that was like, okay, he, for us personally, he's not eating what he should be.
Yeah.
Um, so now I'm nursing and pumping and we're doing bottles, but he takes a bottle great.
Good.
Um, I've been nervous about bottles. I didn't really want to do bottles, but I'm learning to accept it and find that, you know, though it is not what I wanted, I get a little bit of freedom from it, which is great. So,
Yeah.
I can leave for a little while and go do something, whether it be by myself or with my little girl and have mom and me time.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it works. So
Yeah.
I'm going to accept it that way. So it's nice. And I found formula that I like. I think that was rough as well.
Yeah.
We're still not sure if he has a milk protein allergy. I'm kind of taking dairy out of my diet for the most part. And then I found like a hypoallergenic formula, but I like the formula that I'm using. So at least
That's awesome.
I found what makes me comfortable. So
Good.
it
Good.
works. So
Yeah, and that's I think the most important thing is just finding what works for you and your family and your
mhm,
baby and just finding that right fit. So,
exactly.
I'm
So
glad that you're able to do that.
it's working
It's a
better.
process.
Yes, it's a
Yeah.
process, but do what works for you, do what works for your
Yeah.
baby. I mean, the most important thing out of all of this is that he is getting fed and that he's growing.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
as long as that's happening, then I'm happy.
Number one priority. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, well, when did you start to feel like you were able to get kind of in a routine with a new baby, like whether that be with, Everly or with Riley?
So I don't know if I ever really found a routine. So with Everly, I my routine, and if my mom listens to this, she would laugh. My routine was waking up in the morning and driving to my parents' house for the entire day for like months. I think I did that almost every day for the first 6 months, which is crazy. But I mean, we lived in a dark apartment and I
Yeah.
needed something
I
else.
was
And
gonna
so
say
that
that's
was
amazing that you had that option,
it.
honestly.
I loved it. I
Yeah.
am so grateful that they moved down here and that I was able to
Yeah.
do that. Like it saved me. So that was my routine. And then my mom looked and she kept trying to help me out because I couldn't find like mom friends. None of my friends have
Yeah.
kids. So
Yeah.
I felt very alone on an island, just me and my
Mhm.
kid. That's a separate question for later. That's hard. But she was trying to help me out and she found this group that I went to. And I would say that that's kind of when I started getting a routine. So I started going to a stroller group um, every other day, I want to say, in the mornings. And so
That's
that got
awesome.
me and Everly up and out in the stroller, um, working out outside, talking to other people. So I was able to get ready and do things. And I think that's when I found more of a routine. And through that,
Yeah.
I had made some friends with kids similar ages to Everly. And so we would do other things. So that I wouldn't say it was like the same routine all the time, but it was more of a mornings. Most days of the week, we would be, going to the park, going to work out with this group,
Yeah.
or we ended up doing gymnastics and music class and
Yeah.
all those
And it
things.
gave you something to do and a reason to get out.
Exactly. And that
Yeah.
changed things. So I wouldn't say that there was ever like, oh, we do this, 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 but
Oh, totally.
there was a routine of getting ready and leaving the house to go do things, I think, for myself and then for Everly, because it was that
Yes.
she was exposed and she was able to be around other kids and me. And that was the greatest thing ever. I think that helped with how down I had been feeling. I didn't realize that people were going through similar things to me. And so that was our new routine. And I got to make new friends and Everly got to make some friends out of it too, which has been great. So,
Yeah, that's amazing. I totally agree with that. And this does kind of go with like a question we have later, but
yeah.
since we're talking about it, I was going to ask you about your stroller group because I know it's been like such a good support for
Yeah.
you and I felt similarly to I had a good group of friends in Chicago. We were living in Chicago at the time. If you're listening, you know who you are. And they literally saved me. Like
Yeah.
I had talked about last episode, I was really struggling with that postpartum depression. And when things kind of started to turn a corner and like I could kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel was when I started getting a little more involved in this group. And it was amazing because people would just say, "Hey, we're going to the park today if anyone wants to come." And
Yeah.
I'm like I have I don't know, Hillam was probably like 6 months at the time. And I'm like, he's not going to do anything at the park,
Yeah.
but we're still going to go because it's going to get both of us out. You're able to make those connections. And it's just like made all the difference.
Yeah.
So I do think I would say very similar to you. We never really had like a good routine or anything, especially in the beginning. I always felt like I didn't do anything all day, but at the same time, like I had no time to do anything. Like it was
Yeah.
so weird. It's like, what did I even do today? I don't even know what I did today, but it felt like I didn't have time or I wasn't able to do
Yeah.
anything. It was just like so weird.
Yeah.
So I think being just like stuck in the house, like it just doesn't it didn't
No.
help. So yeah. having that reason to like get out, connect, like I think that was good for both of
Yeah,
us, like you
makes a
said.
world of a difference. And
Yeah.
you're saying, like, being stuck inside. I will say, I'm in that right now, and I
Yeah.
know because of Everly getting out is great, and I should be. It's just been harder with 2.
Oh, yeah.
But I know that I'm gonna get back to that place, and I think that,
Yes.
just having people that are going through similar things as you just seriously makes a world of a difference, and
Yes.
I didn't realize it until I started going. So, I will say my group has gone through some changes, but we all still meet up. I haven't been going for months and I miss everybody and it's a bummer, but I'm going to start getting back into it. But for anybody who's listening and feeling stuck or feeling like they want to do something, Fit for Mom, look it up. It's amazing. Gets you out, gets you working out, finds a group of people with, all the things that you're going through. You can talk about similar things. It was the most amazing thing. So
Yeah, that's
if you're
so
listening,
awesome.
look it up. Fit for
Yes.
Mom. It's literally everywhere. They have it everywhere.
Hey,
Um,
I'll
it's
probably
great.
be looking it up when we move.
You should.
So,
You
and see
should.
if there's groups around where we'll
Yeah.
be. So,
It was great. It was great. I loved it. So, how did you carve out time for yourself during that first year? So, I'm kind of switching it more to
yeah.
us now.
And I kind of just going along with what we were
Yeah.
saying, I think the biggest thing for me was having that group of friends, and we would do like girls' nights.
Yes.
Um, and so when Hillam got to a point where I felt comfortable leaving him, like I would feed him and put him down for bed, and
Mhm.
then we would go out to dinner or um, something. And that was like huge,
Yeah.
just having that time for me, and time to connect with friends and get out. So that was like a really big part of it. But right now, going to the gym and having them take the kids, and honestly, like my number one reason for doing it is just like to have some me time.
Yeah.
And I know the kids are being taken care of, and I can go just like focus on, taking care of my body
Oh,
and getting some exercise in. And so that has been like a huge
yeah.
thing for me that I just love. And I know not everyone is able to do that. And so,
That's
that
amazing.
might not always be an option. But for me, that helps just to have that dedicated time that I know, that my kids are being taken care of, and I can
Yeah.
kind of focus on me for a little bit. And then obviously, like relying on my husband, Austin, and we kind of, will give each other both the opportunities to do things that we want to do, individually, and pursue our hobbies. And, it doesn't happen like super often, but as much as we can,
Yeah.
try to give each other that time to be our own selves. Like, obviously, we love being all together. We love being parents. We love that quality time that we get to spend
Yeah.
with our kids is like the best ever. But also, I think it's so important to have that time for you to discover who you are individually too,
Yeah.
and kind of have that time. So,
Yeah. That's
yeah.
amazing that you're going to the gym and that there's
Like I said,
that's
I am no like I don't know. I'm no professional or anything. Like
no, you
I
don't need to be.
just I'm pretty low key at the gym.
Yeah.
I'm pretty low key,
Yeah.
but it is nice.
No, that's nice. It sounds like a little mini vacation, actually.
Yeah, right.
Love that. I love that. Yeah, I did my group did like mom's night out, and I went
Mhm.
to a number of those, and that was always really nice. That was like,
Yeah.
okay, I can get away and,
Yeah.
have a relaxing night, play some games, talk with some people and have some fun. Um, so that was really nice. And yeah, I meet up with some of my friends outside of mom,
Yeah.
like motherhood, I guess. Like my friends before, most of my friends that I've known forever don't have kids. So,
Yeah.
um, finding time to meet up with them as well and do things was always fun. And it was always appreciated when they would reach out and like try to make something work.
Yes.
Because I don't think, again, you don't know until you're in it.
Yeah.
Um, but those friends that did reach out to me and like made that extra effort to like try and hang out always made me feel so good.
Yes.
Um, and I know this is kind of veering from me time, even though hanging out is me time,
Yeah.
but just to insert like those that actually made a huge difference. Because you can't always like I'm not always thinking about like, oh, I need to do this, that, the other. Like I'm focusing on the kids and getting everything done. And so when
Yes.
people did make that extra effort to reach out and be like, hey, I want to see you, that
Yeah.
made a huge difference to me. And I don't know that
Huge.
they probably don't realize how much of a difference that makes because they're not like in that
In
situation,
it. Yeah.
but it does.
Yeah, absolutely.
And otherwise, I've had a lot of friendships that have like drifted because I'm like, I just don't have like I want to reach out, but it's like at the same time I don't have the ability to like go and do all these things all the time. And
Yeah, that you maybe all those things that you used to be able to
yeah.
do,
And so when
or
those things
yeah.
fall through and you're not able to do it, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's a bummer. But I've had a lot of friends reach out. That's really great. So
Yeah.
making time and doing that was always really fun for me because it was like having a kid felt like a lot of myself from before was kind of gone. And
Yeah.
so when my friends had still reached out to do something, it was
Mhm.
like almost
That
like that
old
part of
part of
me.
you. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that felt really good. It was like I kind of
Yes.
feel like a bit of my old self again, and
For
and I get
sure.
to go out and spend time with these people, and I think that was really great. So I enjoy
Yeah.
that.
No, I think that makes complete sense. Anything else that you would say you did for self-care, or, you know,
There's
took
probably a
that
lot
time
more
for
I should have
yourself?
done.
It's so hard, honestly. I especially in the beginning, it's like, my self-care is just making sure we're all alive.
Yeah, I think I would like honestly, if I think about something that like made me happy, it was
Yeah.
like sitting on the couch and eating watermelon after Everly was
Oh,
born.
that
That
sounds
was what made
amazing. That's amazing.
I would just like I called it my like watermelon diet. I would literally which it's not a diet. I was eating everything more than just
Right, right.
watermelon. But
Yeah.
she was born in the summer and I would just sit on the couch and eat watermelon like all day.
And
And
sometimes that's all it takes,
it made me
It's
happy.
just yeah, it's the simple things.
It is.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Now I'm
so
craving watermelon.
it sounds
I'm
good,
gonna go
doesn't
eat
it?
some watermelon after this.
So, yeah, I would say we could say that. That was like the me thing, watermelon.
Yeah, I love that. Um, okay, so we talked about kind of like relationships with maybe friends and old friends, new friends. What were some strategies you used to maintain your relationship with your partner after baby?
I feel like
If any.
no, no, no. I think that we kind of touched on this last week. It was hard, and I learned that with all my hormones and everything, I just wasn't myself. And I think we learned that just we needed to talk to each other. Nothing was really solved in those first few weeks. It was a lot of like, I'm upset and I'm upset. And
Yeah.
then everything is happy and great. And then all of a sudden something happens and it's just like, um, but I think him and I both learned about ourselves in those situations. Dwayne likes to talk about things more quickly, and
Mhm.
I'm the one that will sit and kind of stew in it, and I
And
kind of need
process and yeah.
but I also kind of need that push. And so
Mhm.
he would kind of let me sit in it for as long as I needed, but that would make me even more angry, if that makes sense. Like, I needed that time, but I also needed him to, like, come and check on me and, like, ask the
Yeah.
questions.
It's like, "Leave me alone, but don't leave me alone."
it doesn't make sense. It didn't make
No, I
sense.
totally get it.
Um, and so I think I had to learn how to communicate that with him. And so we learned that, like, he'll come in and I need to be more open to talking then. Um, and being okay with, working through it. I just sit in my anger. It's not good. That's been a big thing that I've worked on this since Everly was born until now. Um, just talking through it and
Which is
not
so hard
just sitting.
sometimes.
It
Yeah.
is. And because I'll just sit and I just will like get mad and then he won't come in and I'll be like, well, So I'm working on being like, okay, I've had my 10 minutes. I need to go talk to him now because I'm angry for half the time something that doesn't make sense and or something that he wouldn't understand why I'm upset about. So we've learned that. We've learned that he can come and talk to me and I need to be more open, and it has created a more open line of
Mhm.
communication between the two of us, and um, less stewing
Yes.
in our grumps.
Yes.
So things get resolved faster, and I think that that's helped us.
Huge.
And
Yeah.
not even just between like arguments that happen, because I feel like that was the biggest thing. We were getting in more arguments because we were tired and figuring things out from two different perspectives and having to come together as one, and it just causes some bickering. But knowing now how to just communicate better beyond arguments just throughout life has
Mhm. Mhm.
strengthened our relationship a lot. And um, knowing like how we can make one another feel better, what we can do to just like make a day really happy, or he comes home and he's upset from something, I can understand better, like, oh, what we can do to make it a better day, or he just needs his 20 minutes to sit down.
Yeah.
um so I think it's just helped
You
us,
guys
but
can
it's
have that empathy for each other.
exactly,
Mhm.
but it's not like an easy road, and it's not like we're perfect by any means, and we still have so many things to learn from one another. But kids definitely like speeds that process up, I
Yeah.
feel. You really have to like
It's like
learn how
boot
to
camp for
communicate.
your
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Still, but it's like ongoing. It's not like things
Oh,
don't
yeah.
happen still where we're like,
Oh, for sure.
we have to figure this out. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
How about you?
Never ending boot camp.
Never ending. There you go.
Yeah.
But I mean, that says something too about like the relationship and who, if like, it makes me feel good about the person that I am with. And that's
Yeah.
me personally, and that's not everyone's story, and that's okay. But
Totally.
for my personal life, I think that makes me feel happy in our relationship, knowing that we can do those things, and that though
Mhm.
it's tough, we can still work through
Yes.
and move forward. That makes me feel good and
Yeah.
happy about the choices that him and I have made. So
That's awesome. I love what you said too about having that open line of communication. Um and and just being able to learn how to more freely talk to one another about what you're feeling or what you're struggling with or what you need. And yeah, it takes time, and it's not always easy, and sometimes, I still shove things down and
oh
let
yeah,
it bubble under the surface until it explodes. But I think that's a great goal, and that's a great thing to work towards, is having that open line of communication.
yeah,
I was just going to add to something that we had to do to kind of try and maintain our relationship, and um is be like more intentional with our quality time too,
yeah,
like, because whereas before, when you don't have kids, it's like you can be spontaneous and
yeah,
let's go to the movies, or let's, you know, go on an adventure, or, you can be kind of spontaneous, and you have a lot of opportunities for that quality time, just you
yeah,
two. And so after being more intentional, and a lot of times that looked like we're going to get takeout and watch a movie together after the kids go to bed,
yeah,
or, like, yeah, a lot of date nights in.
yeah,
um but just being intentional about, like, this is the time that we're setting aside to be
Exactly.
together. And even though it looks different than it did before.
Totally different. This is
Yeah.
totally, it does not look the same.
Yeah. But you still want to, you know, be together as much as you can, which is sometimes not a lot, but
You do your best.
or we one thing we did love to do when we were in Illinois is we would like date night swap with our friends.
Mm.
So like one night, either Austin or I would go over to their house and watch the kids after they went to bed, and they would go out. And then, the next week, Austin and I would go out, and one of them would come over and sit with the
Oh,
kids after they go to bed. And that way, you
that's so
it feels a
nice.
little more affordable. You're not like paying for a
Yeah.
babysitter, but you can help each other out. And so that was a nice thing that we had, that we were able to do in Illinois. And then being here in Utah, we are able to rely on family a
Yeah.
little more to try and get out on a date night once in a while. And
Oh yeah.
but we'll see what that looks like when we move. It'll probably go back to being a lot of date nights in.
Yeah. Which is not terrible.
No, no, it's great.
I haven't had I don't think I don't remember the last time Dwayne and I had a date night.
Well, I mean, you have a newborn, so
We
it doesn't
do.
happen for a
We
while.
do. I was gonna say that's so fun that you said like it looks like takeout in a movie, which
Yeah.
like we would totally make that into a date as
Yeah.
well, which that's nice. I think right now our us time is like me taking my vitamins at night after Everly's gone to bed and him brushing his
Yeah.
teeth.
Yeah.
And we get to talk for a few minutes
A
by
few
ourselves.
minutes before bed.
Yeah, we're like, oh,
Yeah.
this is nice. Okay, good night.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
But
Yes.
it's it's a little bit
And
rough.
you are in that phase of life, like
Yeah.
in the thick of it.
But hopefully in the next few months we have a wedding that we're going to go to in September and
Mm.
that's down the road, but let me tell you, that is my big date.
Yeah.
I'm like, I see it. I'm so
Yes.
excited.
Yes.
I'm like, that's going to be me and you. We get to go
Yeah.
out without the kids. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
those
amazing.
I like what you said though, being intentional about spending time one on one.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing and that's something that we're working on. So,
Yeah. I was going to say we're still working on it,
yeah.
but I could still be
It's
better about it for sure.
it's nice to have a night in with your kids too.
Totally. Yeah, like I
So,
said, we totally love that
it's a
time too that we have all together as a family. Like the other night, um we were all just in the kitchen together having cheese and crackers together and listening to some music, and Helen was dancing, and
oh,
and
love it.
I was like, this is the best. It just,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be anything crazy or extravagant to
Yeah.
like make those memories
Yeah.
together.
And you're
So,
with like your people. So it's
yeah.
like it's nice. Last night I had Everly, I told her it was a special night and she got to sleep in bed with mom and dad.
Oh,
And she thought it was like the coolest thing
the
ever. And
best in the world. Yeah.
I'm like, this is it. Like this for me
Yeah.
is like the most fun thing ever. Like I
Totally.
just get to lay here with my kiddo and have like a fun night reading books and then we're gonna go to bed. Like
Yeah.
that's fun.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, we are about out of time,
We
but really
are.
quick, I did want to touch on if you have any baby products that you were like that you loved that first year, or still, I mean, like we're still in the first year after having a baby. So
Yeah.
if there's any products that you like must have items, or yeah, I don't
I
know.
There's a couple and there's probably controversy around like all the
Well, I was
things
gonna
that
say it's gonna
you're
be different for everyone. So
exactly. And I think that so one, and this is something that I love and to be honest, it's expensive and I am grateful that it was gifted to us, but we have the snoo bassinet
oh,
and it is my absolute favorite thing that we have.
really?
I
Oh.
could not do it without the snoo. It
Oh, that's
is
amazing.
the greatest thing. It's helped me with my anxiety because he just like Everly or Riley, they can't like flip over accidentally or do anything. Like
Yeah.
I sleep a lot better because of it. And so,
Yeah,
like, if I were to say my absolute number one would be that, but that's not the case for everybody. And I know that
totally.
that it's a spendy buy. I just am in love with it. There's other, I think, more affordable options that are similar to it. Um, but I think I was literally so paranoid about SIDS that not that that prevents it, but it was the only
Right,
thing
right.
that in my
But
mind
it
was
gave
like,
you a little bit of peace of mind.
it did. That's my
That's your
number
number one.
one. And then um the other, like, you got us the Kikaroo,
Yeah.
which is
That's mine.
amazing. So great.
Oh, good. I'm
Um
glad you like it. I was going to ask you because that was mine is the Hikaru changing pad, but I was like, maybe Taylor doesn't like it.
no,
So I don't know.
I love it. We still use it with Riley, and it's
Yeah.
all like sun bleached because it was like in the window from Everly.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
but the greatest thing, did you ever put, like, I ended up putting this go around, like, I just laid her on it bare. Um
Yeah.
but this time around I have put some like mats on it for at night if his back gets cold.
Oh, okay.
Um but it's the greatest thing ever.
Oh, good.
Like, I like, how do you do changing pads that you can't just wipe up because stuff gets
I
everywhere?
know. I know. That is, yeah, that was my, like, that's pretty much my only, like, must have. And, some people, that's also kind of like a spendy
Yeah.
purchase, which, like, it's absolutely not necessary,
No.
but it's just, yeah, something that we've loved because it's so easy to clean. And like with boys, I don't know, maybe I need to get better at like managing things when I change a diaper, but like sometimes like pee is flying, poop is flying,
Everywhere.
like yeah.
Every which
And
way.
it's just like so nice and easy to clean. And so yeah, that's
Yeah.
mine too.
No, that's great. And then the only other thing I would add to this, only because we are having to use so many bottles now with Riley,
Mm,
I questioned like a bottle sterilizer, one of those like
yeah.
machines, because I was like, I don't want to like spend money on that. That's silly.
Yeah.
Like, I can just boil everything and like it's
Yeah.
fine. Um I actually think it makes a difference. So if you're one that's going to be like having to, if you're using bottles and you're like using a lot of bottles, I would say that the sterilizers actually are worth it. And there's ones that are nicer. I think we have a Dr. Brown's
Mm,
one that plugs in. There's ones that run through the cycles faster than ours.
yeah.
But it makes a huge difference because if you're just sitting there like boiling water, you're having to stand by the stove for so long. And we have like bottles on bottles on bottles on bottles because you're pumping, you're doing all these
Yeah.
things. Everything needs to be sterilized. So to have something to just like put things in and be able to walk away from and then come back and then just like
So true.
do it
Yeah.
makes a huge difference.
I
So
believe it.
um that would be, if you're using bottles, I would say where I'm
That's
at
a
now, that's something
good
that I would
investment.
recommend. Yeah.
Do you
So
have any products that you got and used and didn't like? Like any products you think are overrated?
I have a feeling that there are. Do you have any that you have in your head
I
right now?
I do. And like I said, this just goes to show that like every baby is different, every family is different, but mine would be a swing
Oh,
because my babies just don't really like the swing, which is
yeah.
such a bummer. I'm like, dang it, come on. Like it's so funny because I'm like, my kids love the car seat. They both just love the car seat and
Mm,
they love the motion of the car. And I'm like, the swing is not that different. Like you'd
yeah.
think if you like the car seat, you'd like the swing, but no, like
No.
we Hayes went through maybe like a month or a few weeks where he would go in the swing for like small amounts of time, but we didn't use it a whole lot because they just don't really like it, which is such a bummer. And I know some people like swings are the best. Like my mom loved having a swing for my sister because she's like she just loved it and it was so helpful. And
Yeah.
so every baby is totally different. Unfortunately, my babies don't like the swing. So
Uh, that's about. I didn't end up using a swing, but I feel like I really wouldn't have liked it anyways. She was that.
yeah.
uh, I had something that I had thought of, and then I just oh, there's a lot of swaddles. There's just a
Mm.
bunch of swaddles, and, like, there's some that are great, like, we did that Ollie swaddle.
I was gonna say I do love
Um,
the Ollie, but
I Everly liked it sometimes, and I haven't used it really on Riley because he just doesn't like to be held, or he wants his arms out.
mhm.
So I feel like there's so many swaddles out there that you could get,
That
like,
yeah.
I don't know. I went and I did a different one this time called like the Swaddlini, and it has
Mhm.
something for their arms to go in down the sides. And Riley did like it a couple times, but it's just like so hit or miss that
Yeah.
I think that there's just a lot of options out there for that. That was always hard. It was like, are we going to use it? Are we not going to use it? Um, they don't sleep the greatest. And I
Yeah.
also,
And some babies love it and some
yeah.
don't. Yeah.
And this one might be something, there's probably people that this works for amazingly,
Yeah.
but and I'm trying to use it this time around, but like I don't know how to say it. The love every. Do you know what brand I'm talking about?
No.
They have a playmat,
Okay.
and they have like a subscription service.
Oh, I think I've
Um
seen ads.
so
Yes.
we have that playmat and Everly never used it.
Mm.
And I think it's actually educational and good for them to look at the different like textures and everything. It just was like something that she never really liked to lay down or look at.
Mhm.
Um, and so that we didn't play with that. We ended up doing the like, is it Fisher Price? I don't know what brand it is. It's like a rainbow
Oh,
thing with like a little
yes.
piano at the end of it.
Yes, I've seen that
Um,
a lot.
yeah, it's a
Yeah.
monkey. Yeah, the songs get stuck in your head. She liked that.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Yep.
So that was it was like I tried to go this more like Montessori route, and it was like, no,
Yes.
she liked the
It
purple
j
monkey and the music
yeah,
and
the loud music
yeah.
and lights,
Mhm.
yep.
So
Yeah.
things where it was like, oh man, I want this to work, but just like
But it's
oh,
just not.
it
Totally.
every
Yeah.
kid likes different things.
It's so true. It's so true. Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
That's a good it's fun because, like, we have the perspective of having gone through the first year with our firsts, and now we're in the first year with our
With the second.
seconds,
Yep.
so
Yep.
yeah.
And it never ends. Then it'll be
It
like going
never ends, yeah.
through all the different stages moving forward.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Tell us, listeners, if you guys have any favorites of for the first year, whether that be
Yeah.
products, tips, things that you loved or
Yeah.
didn't love.
We can all
So,
still learn always.
oh yeah,
Always.
yeah. And like we said a million times, what works for you might not work for someone else and vice versa,
Yeah.
but it's still fun to try and
Yeah.
see what does work for you
Exactly.
because like I would have never known how much we loved the kikaroo if my sister-in-law wouldn't have told me about it,
Yeah.
so
Or if
you
you
never
hadn't
know.
bought it for me.
Yeah, yeah. So it's still so fun to hear people's favorites
Yeah.
and things. So
Yeah. You find new things through it too. You're like, oh, I never knew about that. And then it's like
yeah,
this amazing new thing.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, thanks everybody.
Thanks for tuning in.